midnight screams.
I wasn't planning to write this, but after everything that happened, I can't stop thinking about it. Maybe getting it out will help. Maybe someone will tell me I'm not insane. It started last winter, when my brother called me out of the blue. We hadn't talked much since the accident, the one that killed his girlfriend. He was in the car too, barely made it out alive. He never liked to talk about it, and I didn't push. When he said he needed somewhere to stay for a while, I told him to come over right away. He sounded small, almost like a kid. The first week was normal enough. He mostly stayed in his room, quiet, polite. Said he was just tired. He didn't go out much, except to buy cigarettes or flowers. Said he left them for her at the cemetery. I thought maybe it was part of his grieving process. Then the smell started. At first, I thought it was the plumbing. It was faint, a sour, musty odor that came and went. I cleaned the bathroom top to bottom, empty trash, even scrubbed behind the fridge. But the smell kept creeping back, thicker every day. It got to the point where neighbors started complaining. My upstairs neighbor texted me asking if something died in the walls. I tried asking my brother if he noticed it. He just shrugged and said, "She doesn't like the window open." I didn't understand what he meant, and honestly, I didn't want to. He'd been talking to himself a lot lately. Late at night, I could hear him whispering through the wall soft, affectionate words like, "It's okay, I'm here," and "Don't cry anymore." Sometimes I could have sworn I heard a woman's voice answer. Just a breath, a murmur, so faint I thought I was imagining it. The more I tried to ignore it, the worse everything felt. The air in the apartment grew heavy, damp. I'd come home from work and the smell would hit me before I even reached the hallway. Every time I asked him to at least air out his room, he'd get defensive. "Don't touch anything," he'd snap. "It's fine. She's fine." She? I thought he was losing his mind. A few days later, when he left for one of his visits, I decided I couldn't take it anymore. I told myself I'd just open the window, spray some air freshener, maybe do a quick tidy up. Nothing invasive. But the second I opened his door, I almost threw up. The smell slammed into me, thick, sweet, metallic. The curtains were drawn tight. The air was humid, like something rotting had been trapped for weeks. Clothes were scattered everywhere, old food containers. The floor was sticky in some places, but the worst part was near the bed. The wood there was dark, damp-looking, as if something had seeped into it. My stomach turned when I saw the corner of a blanket move slightly, or maybe it just sagged. Either way, something was under there. I crouched down, grabbed the blanket with trembling fingers, and pulled. That's when I saw it. An arm, pale, stiff. The skin looked stretched, like paper over bone. I screamed and stumbled backward, my heart slamming so hard I couldn't breathe. For a few seconds, all I could do was stare. The smell made sense now. The whispers. The way he never left. He'd done it. He dug her up. He brought her home. My brain refused to process it. I ran for my phone, my hands shaking so badly I could barely unlock it. That's when I heard the front door creak. He was home. He stood in the doorway, eyes wide, his clothes damp from the rain. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Then he smiled that empty, hollow smile I hadn't seen since the funeral. "You weren't supposed to go in there," he said quietly. Then, louder, almost shouting, "She's still real. Don't say she's not." He lunged toward the bed, shielding it with his body, shouting at me not to touch her. I backed into the corner, crying, begging him to stop. I called the police, screaming into the phone that my brother had lost his mind, that there was a dead body in my apartment. He was sobbing now, clutching something invisible, whispering her name over and over. When the sirens finally grew louder outside, I thought it was over. Relief flooded me. The officers burst in, two of them, hands on their holsters. I pointed to the bed, yelling for them to look, to see what he'd done, but they just stared at me. One of them spoke softly, like I was a child. "Who are you talking to?" I turned to gesture toward my brother, but he wasn't there. The room was empty. The bed, though the bed still had something underneath it. One of the officers knelt, lifted the blanket, and then froze. I'll never forget his face, because the body under the bed wasn't hers. It was him, my brother. His eyes were sunken, his mouth open like he'd died mid-breath. His skin was gray, mummified, caved in. I dropped to my knees, shaking my head, saying no, no, no. Because it couldn't be him. He was here. He had been here. He called me, moved in, ate breakfast with me, sat at the table every morning, talked to me. They pulled me away, but I kept screaming that he was alive, that he'd just been standing there. They said I'd been living alone for months. The landlord confirmed it. The neighbors never saw him. No one ever did. I dug him up myself. Somewhere in my mind, I guess I couldn't handle losing him. I told myself, he called, that he came back. I cleaned his room, cooked for him, heard him talking through the wall, but he never came back. Sometimes, at night, when it's quiet and the heater hums, I still hear him whispering through the wall. His voice is soft, almost kind. "Thank you for letting me stay." It's been 2 weeks since Mom started to drag Claire to community programs. This was heavily influenced by Aunt Minnie's persistent chatter over the phone that Mom's baby girl is disconnected with the universe and she needs guidance in order to find her anchor. I personally think it has nothing to do with any spiritual stuff that my aunt is crazy about, and my mom knows it well herself. Claire is fine in every other way. She can point out the differences between lions and tigers, happily shouting orange and tiger stripes when I show her picture books. She is also curious and adventurous like any other kid her age. It didn't make sense that she will not try to walk, but Claire, healthy and happy, never even attempted to stand, even though she was talking just fine. Ever since Claire was 14 months old, Mom had tried to coax her into standing. She would sit in front of Claire, smile, and encourage her over and over again. Claire had only giggled and focused on the toy in her hand every time. As days flew by without any more progress, Mom tried the hospital and signed up for a program in the Child Development Center. It didn't work either. Saturday was another day at the spiritual community program for Claire. I had noticed Mom had bags under her eyes as she carried Claire to the car. A few days ago, Mom told me they were learning how to breathe at that program, and I can tell Mom was going to snap if this goes on without a veil. I was looking at my phone when Mom called me. She asked me to check if the nursery's windows were open, since it was going to rain soon. I did what I was told and stood up from the couch. I could see the sky was already gray with clouds. Claire's room is upstairs, across from mine. I aimed at my bed, chucked my phone, and walked straight into the nursery. The windows were open. I didn't hesitate on closing them, and I was starting to get out when my feet got stuck in one of Claire's toys. I instinctively looked down, but soon I noticed something other than a stuffed crocodile on my foot. There were faint red-brown stains on the floor, not vivid enough to catch attention, but there when you knew to look. And they stretched across the room. The stains were in an odd shape. It was far from simple droplets you get from spilling something. No, it looked like something was dragged endlessly, all around the nursery in a big circle. Maybe Claire had something on her knees while she was playing in her room, but the track was a perfect circle, and I was sure Mom wouldn't let Claire play with spoiled clothes. I decided to let Mom know when she came back. I was just turning around when I heard a crash in my room. I froze. The cause of the sound was none other than my phone. It was on the floor. Maybe it landed wrong and slipped from my bed. I was pretty sure it fell on the middle of the bed, though. The house seemed a lot bigger, the hallway taller as I stepped into my room. I picked up my phone, my mind replaying the strange stains. From downstairs, I heard Mom calling that she was back. The rain had started falling just a few minutes after I closed the window. I rushed out to pass Mom an umbrella. She was annoyed about today's session, and I forgot about the stains. I only remembered it in the evening, when I was playing with Claire. Claire had a princess doll in her fist, and she moved it across the air. But then, as if she was struck, she made a face before gently lowering the doll to the ground. I watched as Claire dragged the doll on the ground, her face furrowed in concentration. The cotton doll was now sprawled on its hands and knees. Like Claire, like me, Claire declared to the doll. 1, 2, 3. Good. Claire, I asked, amused, why is the princess crawling? Claire stared at me with wide eyes, her mouth half open. Then she crossed her arms with a pout. 1, 2, 3, good. But she has feet, I pointed out. I reached for the poor doll whose yarn hair was now dusty and made her stand on my knee. See, she can stand. I pulled the doll away from Claire's reach and started to make it take little steps. And she can walk. No, like me. Claire's cheeks were getting redder, and I realized I made a mistake. Too late. She burst into tears, and Mom rushed into the living room, scooping up Claire in her arms while shooting me a look. Mom, there are stains on the nursery floor, I informed her, leaning against the sofa. If Claire drags her dolls on the ground like this, all of her toys will be covered in them soon. Mom frowned and nodded, her hands still supporting Claire. I'll clean it up later, she said, setting Claire on the couch. In the meantime, you can finish your chores. I wanted to say something more, but Mom's tired eyes stopped me. After dinner, Claire played quietly on the living room rug. A frog doll had joined the princess doll. I tried to push the memory of the stains aside, trying not to notice as Claire made the dolls crawl and stumble over the carpet. 1, 2, 3, good, she chanted, voice light but rhythmic. Something about it made my chest tighten. I told myself she was just repeating what she had learned, a harmless mimicry, but the pattern in her voice felt deliberate. as if she was teaching the dolls. A few days later, I woke up in the middle of the night. I had to use the bathroom. I was heading right when I noticed the nursery door open. In the darkness, the toys littered on the floor were visible, but the door blocked me from seeing her bed. Voices were coming from the room, inaudible from where I was standing, but I could hear it was not one, but two. Was it Mom? Even though I gave myself the most logical answer, I knew better. It can't be Mom. Mom won't talk to Claire in the middle of the night. I couldn't even swallow as I took a step, then another. The voices didn't stop. My feet, stilled just a few feet away from entering the room. That's when I was able to see it. Claire was awake, on the floor, on her hands and knees, crawling, and beside her was a shape larger than Claire, its back hunched and head ducked in an uncomfortable angle. It had long, scraggly hair that looked damp, touching the floor. Together, they moved their left hands forward. Then they tugged themselves forward. 1. Right hand forward. 2. The thing purred. And I saw the truth. Claire doesn't walk because the thing that taught her how to move never had feet. It's definitely a bedbug, the exterminator's voice cracked over the speakerphone. A bedbug? I groaned. Yes, we couldn't identify it at first because the species is so rare. Usually this one comes from the tropics, like South America. Damn. I muted myself and turned to my wife. How the hell did a tropical bedbug get in our bedroom? I don't know. She shrugged, despondent. Still there? I unmuted. Yeah. If I do the treatment, you'll need to pull all your furniture from the walls and bag up every loose item and store them outside. That way, I can spread the fungus along the beds and floorboards. The stuff is non-toxic to humans, but it'll kill the bugs in a few weeks. I shuddered. All I could think about were those parasites crawling over my body, sinking their incisor-like jaws into my arms and legs. How much does it cost? $1,700. What? I nearly passed out. I can come in as early as next week. I turned to my wife. That's a lot of money. I don't think we have much of a choice. We went ahead with the extermination. The next 5 days were chaos. My wife and I bagged every loose item in our bedroom and hauled them outside. We boxed every toy, book, and article of clothing in our toddler's room and stored them in the closet. We pulled back our furniture so that there was enough space on all sides to move freely. It was back-breaking work, but it was necessary to kill the pests. Where are the bugs, Daddy? Our toddler kept saying as we shifted his furniture around. Hiding in the walls, son. Someone's going to come save us. For those who don't know, bedbugs reproduce at an alarming rate. One female can lay up to 7 eggs per day. Eggs can hatch in 9 days. Juveniles can reach maturity and reproduce in 4 weeks. Without any intervention, an infestation will double every 2 weeks. Since my last call with the tech, my wife and I had been bit several times, waking up with painful welts all over our bodies. Even our toddler had been fed on. An infected bump ballooned on his forehead and looked like a third eye. "Oh my God," my wife said, rubbing calamine lotion on his wound. "Are you okay, sweetie?" "Yes, Mommy." "I can't take this anymore." About halfway through her panic attack, the exterminator called me. "How's it going?" "We're almost done packing." I scratched at a fresh welt on my elbow. We've only got 2 more bags to fill. Sounds like you're doing a good job. Hang on till I get there. The tech arrived at our house on Friday at 10 a.m. Everything ready? Yes. Right this way. We practically pulled him inside. Wow, you've done great. Both of our rooms looked like humans had never lived there. Furniture was stacked on one another like Jenga towers. Every unorganized item had been removed and stored in the garage or closet. Are you here to save us? Our son asked from the hallway. Yes, sir. The technician smiled and ruffled his hair. I'm gonna set you up so that this never happens again. The exterminator moved quickly, planting his fungus along the floorboards and furniture. I watched him work with desperate satisfaction. One of my arms had nearly 12 bites now. There must have been 10 bedbugs in the house, feasting on us every few nights. I imagined them watching from the walls, observing their oncoming demise. By 11:15 a.m., the tech was finished. Y'all should be good now. He gathered his gear. Just slowly start to unpack. The bugs should be dead within a few weeks. Won't they continue feeding on us? My wife asked. Yes, but as they crawl over the fungus to reach you, it'll suffocate them. It's the fastest way to get out of this mess. Within 2 weeks, the bites had stopped. My wife and I could sleep peacefully again. Life was normal. At least, it seemed that way. About 6 months into our newfound freedom, I received a call. Mr. S. Yes? I work with Pran. Law office. Did pest control service your house in the past year? Yes, we had bed bugs in March, but they're gone now. You may be entitled to a sizable settlement. A what? Can you come by our office? We have something to show you. My wife and son and I arrived at the attorney's that afternoon. I appreciate you coming in on such late notice. The lawyers shook our hands as we settled into a conference room. What's this about? I placed my son on my lap. We've been building a case against a local pest control company for the past 2 years, specifically with one of their technicians. That sounds awful, my wife mused. It's taken us some time, but I think we've gathered enough evidence. For what? Can I ask you something? Do you know how you got bedbugs? My wife and I looked at each other. We'd thought about it, but hadn't pinned down an explanation. You haven't traveled to anywhere tropical or... No. We've been in town for the past 5 years, I admitted. The farthest we've gone is wine country. I understand. Please watch this and tell me what you see. The attorney pulled out her tablet and pressed play. A video popped up of a pest control technician spraying an ordinary backyard. My wife and I leaned close. A hat was pulled over the tech's face, but when he lifted his sprayer to cover the awning, his personage came into view. Oh my God, I said. That's the guy we hired earlier this year. We have hours of similar footage. Why bring us in? Because one of our clients gave us this. She pulled up another video. The camera, which must have been mounted inside of a birdhouse, showed our exterminator spraying outside someone's garage. Nothing unusual. But then, when he reached the side yard, he stooped down and pulled something from his jacket. What is that? My wife asked. The attorney clicked another button, and the angle changed. Now we were staring straight on at the tech. He was dumping something out of a tiny plastic bucket. The camera's angle and clarity allowed us to see bedbugs, hundreds of them, tumbling out like wingless flies. The spot where they landed was on stonework painted white, which made them easier to see. "Oh my God," my wife gasped, covering her mouth. The sight of them tumbling over each other, squirming like ants fighting over spilled syrup, made me want to vomit. Apparently, this technician has been dumping these parasites all over town, then servicing his clients to deal with infestations. Unbelievable, I gasped, so traumatized I could barely breathe. About 1 year later, we received a check in the mail. It was from Pest Control for $6,000. There had been hundreds of clients impacted in our community. My wife and I had fought for a bigger payout, but the fact that our tech had been caught and was facing consequences meant the world to us. "At least he won't be able to do that to anyone else," my wife said. "Yeah, at least." That night, I dreamt about those bloodthirsty pests. One crawled up my leg and stopped at my stomach, leaving a soupy red welt. The next morning, I awoke to a battering of knocks at the front door. What the hell is that? The mail? I stumbled to the entryway and peered into the eye-hole. A figure was standing with her back to the glass. I rubbed the sleep from my eyes and opened the door, seeing a young man with sickly, rash-covered skin. His eyes were fixed into an eerie stare. His lips were locked into a painful grin. He looked like he hadn't slept in weeks. "Hello?" Without a word, he set a clear plastic box on the ground, then dashed away and disappeared down the street. "Hey!" I called after him. "What is this? Come back." I glanced down at the container. There were countless bedbugs inside, squirming, desperate for a way out. I've always been fascinated by the ocean. It covers most of the earth, yet we still don't know what all lives there. That's why I joined a research project by a company devoted to documenting sea life. Me and my coworkers, Cindy and Lance, had been assigned to monitor an area in the Atlantic that the company believed was part of the migratory path of basking sharks. Our job consisted of dropping anchor in an area in the Atlantic, then lowering a camera down to observe the area and document any basking sharks passing through. For the last 3 days, we witnessed 12 crabs, 32 fish, and 0 basking sharks. Lance made a remark about how we had the task of watching for the one camera-shy species of fish in the entire ocean. That night, Cindy and I were out on the deck looking at the now blackened seas when suddenly Lance shouted from the cabin, "Cindy! Madison! Come look at this!" We both ran over to the cabin, and Lance was pointing at the monitor. "Right here." Lance was pointing at something in the monitor. Save for the light on the camera, everything else was black, except for what looked like faint light in the distance. "What is that, Lance?" Lance looked at the light again, then back at us. "I don't know. Maybe it's an ROV from another ship?" I almost considered it, but remembered this area was exclusive to our company. But we're supposed to be the only research vessel for 30 miles. Could we check the archived footage of the 3 previous days? Maybe we can see when this thing started creeping over the horizon. Way ahead of you, Madison. Lance went over to our second monitor and began scrubbing through the footage of each day until we got to this morning. And it started right here. Lance slowed the footage down. That's when the light began to crest over, and it's been coming this way ever since. The discussion about what to do boiled down to watching the live feed, in shifts to watch the light. Because I suggested it, I was given first watch. I watched the light grow slightly for about an hour. It went from being the size of a dime to a nickel, but I still couldn't make out any new details from it. I tried to stay away to watch further, but boredom is an effective sleep aid. I woke up to see that the light was closer to the camera and larger. Before I could check the time, how long it'd been asleep, that's when I noticed something in the light. It looked like the silhouette of a man slowly walking in the sand. I ran to get Cindy and Lance. They were dumbfounded when they saw the silhouette. Lance went on about how the man couldn't have stayed down there so long without equipment, and that the water pressure should have killed it. Cindy was more concerned about the glow it was giving off. I looked back at the feed to see that the man had stopped walking and alerted Lance and Cindy of this. We stared at the screen as the light around the man started to dim. Then he turned his head to look right at our camera. Lance was the first to realize what this meant. Someone go to the crane and pull the camera up. Before we could leave the cabin, Cindy pointed out that the man had stopped looking at the camera and was walking away. A moment of relief turned to terror as the boat suddenly bobbed. It had grabbed the anchor. We all ran over to the stern. Looking over the edge, we saw that same orange light rapidly rising. It was climbing up the anchor chain. Somehow, it could climb much faster than it could walk. Within minutes, the light was only 10 feet away from us. The growing orange light was followed by the water around the chain boiling. Then, as it was out to breach the surface, we stumbled back as the man's head came out of the water, steam coming off of it as the man climbed onto the boat. What stood before us was a 7-foot humanoid figure. He was naked, but had no genitals, and was built like a bodybuilder. His skin resembled the color of burned wood, with lots of cracked, open wounds that had a faint orange glow emanating from them. His eyes were a solid orange and also gave off a similar glow. We stared at the thing that had just crawled up the anchor chain to our boat. Cindy was the first one to say something to it. "Hello?" The man looked at Cindy. I swear the light inside him got brighter as he replied with a voice that was deep and sounded slightly distorted. "Why were you watching me?" We stared at the man. Again, it looked like his body kept growing brighter. I tried to keep a neutral tone with my reply. "Our apologies. We were out here to observe marine life that migrate in this area. You come to watch me. I've seen your machine before, a giant black eye that comes down to observe me. Then, when I get close, it rises back up before I can catch it. This time, you weren't fast enough. Again, I ask, why are you watching me?" I didn't know how to respond. None of us knew this thing existed, but apparently the company did. Lance tried to explain. "Look, we didn't even know you were here. Other people have been paid to come to this area, and they were most likely told that this was to observe marine life as well." The man looked at Lance. Its faint glow had become comparable to a lantern now. "If you did not intend to watch me, then you will surrender your ship to me." Cindy was the first to object. "Listen, I know you're upset, but we can't just give you our—" Lance cut Cindy off. "We would be glad to. Just give me a minute to get our life raft, and it's all yours." I couldn't believe what Lance had done, leaving us to die on a life raft, while this thing got to keep our boat and go God knows where with it. Cindy immediately objected. "Lance, we can't just give the ship to him." "Of course we can, Cindy. This poor guy's probably been walking across the ocean floor for a very long time." Lance walked into the cabin, leaving us with this thing. The glowing never stopped amplifying. but now I could see in the lights on the ship that actual heat was coming off of him as well. I worried that he could have been radioactive. While waiting for Lance, I felt compelled to ask this thing a question. Why were you walking across the ocean floor? The thing tilted its head before responding. My purpose is to arrive at the new land and destroy it. My only way of getting there is to walk. The boats of wood could not withstand me. As he continued, I finally noticed the smell of burning wood. I looked down and saw smoke coming out from under his feet. "Where is your associate?" Suddenly, Lance ran out with a harpoon gun. "Right here." With that, Lance fired a harpoon at the man. It reacted to the projectile with incredible speed. It grabbed the harpoon, its body glow quickly changing from orange to yellow, then finally blue. The cracks in his body opened further as fires started coming out of them. The harpoon was now glowing bright orange, bending and melting in its hand. As it let the molten metal fall to the deck, it looked at Lance with rage. Humans never learn. The man moved at a horrifying speed, grabbing Lance by the neck and taking him over to the starboard side. The man's fire diminished because it was now enveloping Lance. We watched as he screamed and flailed in agony. I was taken out of my trance by Cindy suddenly darting past me to get into the cabin. I turned to see if the man had noticed, but he was still burning Lance alive. Cindy came back out, holding a fire extinguisher. "Get to the crane controls! I'll see if I can cool him down." I didn't question Cindy's suicidal plan. I just ran over to the controls and watched as she ran over to the man who had just finished thoroughly burning Lance to death. "Freeze, fucker!" Cindy proceeded to spray the man with a fire extinguisher, causing him to drop Lance's body into the water while I moved the crane as fast as I could towards it. Cindy ducked just as the arm of the crane struck the man, sending him into the water. His splash was followed by the area he was in, steaming and bubbling. I set the cable on the crane to retract while Cindy started raising the anchor so it couldn't climb back up. After that, we started up the motor and hauled ass back to the marina. We were both pretty certain the company wouldn't believe us. Even with video footage and footprints burned onto the floor of the deck, when the time came to talk to our boss, he told us that the footage we'd gotten was excellent and that Lance's accidental death was a tragedy. The company had decided that Lance was trying to cook something in the cabin's small kitchen when an at the time unknown defect in the stove created an explosion that set Lance ablaze. He ran out, leaving a trail of burned footprints, and jumped overboard to put himself out. I didn't contest the narrative, and neither did Cindy. It was obvious that the company had dealt with this thing before, and no amount of contesting would make them even partially admit what really happened. Shortly after, we were both let go as the research project was deemed complete. I eventually did get a permanent job with another oceanic research company, and after a year, the nightmares stopped. I still think about the man walking across the ocean floor. I'm not sure where the new land he was referring to actually is, but every time I see news about fires breaking out in coastal towns, a chill runs down my spine. I've never been the kind of man who does much. Not because I can't, but only because I don't care enough to try. It's too much effort to do things, and I want to do it, and I tell people I will. But the thought of actually doing something exhausts me. People call me smart, say I have potential. That word used to make me feel proud. Now it just feels like an insult with manners. Potential doesn't really mean anything when you never actually do something with it. My days blend together. The glow of the TV, the buzz of the fridge, the quiet hum and drone of nothing important, just brain rot. I drink because it fills the silence. I eat because it's something to do and fills in the gaps of my day. The couch has a permanent imprint of my body. It probably knows me better than anyone else in my life. Sometimes I drift off into a fantasy about what I could have been if I'd actually followed through on something. A degree, a career, a version of myself that didn't give up halfway. But those thoughts never last long. I get upset at myself because I know I'm never going to actually do anything about it. These thoughts sting too much, like a paper cut you keep reopening, so I bury them. I let the noise drown them out, and every night ends the same. I sit in the flicker of a screen, half drunk, half asleep, all the while pretending I don't feel myself rotting. The first time it happened, I didn't even notice. A commercial ended, and the TV went black, and all I could see was just a reflection of me, lazy and slouched, beer bottle in hand. But for a second, my reflection didn't match. It sat straighter. Its shoulders weren't caving in. It looked awake, alive. I blinked, and everything lined up again. I chuckled to myself, thinking I was just tired. But the next night, it happened again. And this time, the reflection was smiling. I keep catching him, and it's not just flashes anymore. He lingers. The TV screen goes dark after a show ends, and he's just there. Same clothes, same couch, but something is off. His eyes are clearer. His posture is steady, and there's something calm about him. He's confident in a way I forgot how to be. The worst part is he doesn't look unnatural. He looks right. He looks like what I wish I were. The next night, I sat closer to the TV, trying to get a closer look. He can't be me. Could I be him? The screen faded into black, and he was already staring back at me. Our eyes met through the black glass, and I swear I felt something press against the back of my head, like a hand pressing me closer to the screen. The TV hummed faintly, and for a split second, I heard him breathe. Not me, him. A clean, steady inhale and exhale. He disappeared, and I heard myself wheezing. I was struggling to breathe, not because I was afraid, but because that is me. I've been overweight for a while. I don't know the last time I actually worked out. How did I become this? Angered towards myself, I shut the TV off and sat there in the dark for hours, listening to the sound of my own breath. I think it was the next day. I'm not sure. Time blurs. I don't have any kind of schedule, so it's hard to tell. I don't even open the curtains. That split second of effort is a waste for me. To me, it's unfathomable to open a curtain, to wash my bed sheets, and clean up my Coke cans and wrappers. The air tastes like dust, copper, stale grease, and cigarette ash. The carpet sticks to my feet. My body feels heavier every day. It's not only the fat weighing me down, but the lack of muscle to even hold myself upright. He's getting worse. He's starting to scare me. He's everywhere. Sometimes I catch my reflection in random things. The microwave door, a beer bottle, the glass of the picture frame across the room. And every time I do, I look worse, gray-skinned, dull and sunken eyes. It feels like the color is being siphoned out of me. But him? He looks better, clearer. While I fade, he brightens. It's like he's stealing the parts of me that used to matter. God, he looks beautiful. What is he? And why is he tormenting me with my failures? Leaving me with a lifeless husk. Please stop. I've started catching him moving before I do. A blink that comes sooner than my own. A turn of the head I never made. One time, I yawned out of exhaustion, and he didn't. He just stared at me with this mild disgust. It wasn't hate, just disappointment. That face of disgust enraged me. I tried to yell at it to defend what little pride I had left, but the sound that came out of me was broken, wheezing, almost alien. I can't sleep anymore. I keep the TV on all night, so the room won't go dark enough to reflect. I refuse to see him. For my sanity, I can't see him. Why am I being cursed by my failures? I now stay in my closet. It's the only place where there are no reflections. Time passes, but I check the time on my phone accidentally, and I see him there, half smiling, patiently, like he's waiting for me. The lines between us are thinning. I can feel it. I woke up in my bed. I did things I don't remember doing. The dishes are clean, the trash is gone, and there's a trash liner in the can. The fridge is stocked. There's a clock in the living room. I don't understand because I don't have the strength to move, but somehow things are getting done. The next day, the bathroom mirror is spotless, except for one perfect handprint that isn't mine. It's smaller, leaner, steadier. I blink, and the clock jumps ahead by hours. Sometimes I wake up with wet hair, wearing different clothes. I haven't showered in years. Last night, I woke up and saw him sitting up in the reflection of the black TV while I lay still. His eyes were open, watching, aware. I'm not sure which of us is real. I tried to talk to him, at first just to fill the silence, asking if he has been cleaning everything, who he is, and why he's torturing me. He never answered me. I then asked, "Are you a demon? Am I in hell?" He didn't respond. He just tilted his head slowly, deliberately, almost like he was trying to figure me out. I screamed, "Answer me!" His expression shifted. Not sadness, not pity. Just disappointment. Like a parent watching their child throw their life away. That look broke me. I screamed at him, told him he was nothing. I punched the mirror until my knuckles split, and I watched the blood trickle down the glass. He didn't flinch. He raised his hand. It was clean. His hand had veins with perfectly clear skin and steady fingers. He smiled. That smile never left my mind. It's been quiet lately. I think he's giving me space. Or maybe I'm too numb to care. I dragged a chair in front of the mirror and sat there. There was no yelling this time. I told him I was sorry. Sorry for wasting time. Sorry for wasting my life away. I told him I didn't hate him. I just wanted to be him. It was envy. Could I ever be him? He appeared. I smiled at him. For the first time, he smiled back. For a moment, I thought that was peace. But then I blinked, and his smile stayed. He turned to two children who ran in behind him. I looked behind me, worried that someone's random kid barged in. But there was nothing there. I faced the mirror again. Those two children were his. They were what I could have had. His wife came into view after and kissed his cheek. All the while, he never broke his gaze towards me. That should have been me. Oh God, why did I do this to myself? Why did I do this to myself? I'm looking at him, tearing. Tearing turned into crying, and then wailing. He's everything I never was. He looks like someone who tried. I wiped the tears off my face to see him again, to see my failures incarnate. He was still staring at me. His lips tightened, his eyes narrowed. I could see it then, the truth burning in his gaze. He was disgusted. I whispered, "Please, don't look at me like that." He didn't move. His disgust deepened, not cruel, but final, like he'd already decided what I was. A shell of wasted years, a man who never lived. Then, for the first time, he stepped away. The light behind him grew brighter. It was a softer and warmer glow, like how the morning sunlight should feel. I reached out, pressing my hand to the glass, but all I felt was cold. He walked away, and the moment he left the frame, the mirror went dark. Days pass, and now, when I look, there's nothing there, not even me. Just the faint shape of a man who used to exist, waiting for a life he never earned. I've done so little that even my dreams abandon me. I'll never become him. I am who I've become. There is no fixing the 40 years of what I chose to be. It's too late.